Hi everyone. In a recent video of relationship related issues, there was a guy who posted a video when he was asked about his past relationship. He spoke about a relationship where a girl and he looked very heartbroken over that relationship. So, obviously, the pain of that relationship is still present in him. And when he was dating someone, he had been for the girl when she was going through rough challenges in her life, but when the girl broke off with him, at that point of time, he was going through some rough challenges in his life. And the girl broke off with him, saying to him that she's sorry that while he was there for her when she was going through a tough phase, she couldn't be there for him when he was going through his depression related challenges. And I'm not going to post the link of the guy, but this is a common issue which not only women and men can have in a relationship, where women can ditch a partner and leave even if the partner had done a lot of things for them. But it is also a common pattern, the opposite of which also manifests when a woman does a lot for the man, but the man leaves the relationship. And in both these cases, whether whichever gender partner left you, and it can happen in any gender relationship, so it doesn't matter how much you give in a relationship, sometimes, because sometimes even if you give, pour out your best in a relationship, you will see that despite pouring out your best in the relationship, if the partner is not ready for you, if the partner was actually not meant to be in your life long term, if the partner was toxically very wrong for you, universe will create a set of circumstances that the person will not stick together with you, will not remain together in your life as a long term partner. And this is a life lesson I learned again and again and again via different men, different personality types. And also, I was also once or twice the woman who couldn't really be the woman for a man that I was dating, even though I could see that he was a good guy. He was not just the good enough guy for me, or I was also not the good enough girl for him. So that's why, only even though we were gravitated towards each other, we had some common things that kept us connected to each other. It was not enough connections, or even though we were nice in general towards each other, the niceness was not enough to sustain a long term relationship, because there was something missing in our relationship. And I will explain it via all the different relationship types that have gone through. And for this guy or any guy, when you are grieving about the fact that while you have poured a lot into your relationship and given something and been like the best version of yourself while giving in a relationship, like maybe you gave money, you gave time, you gave emotional support, you helped a partner with a disease or mental health issue, or some other health issue and challenge, and despite that, when they have left you, many men or feel that they were with a feel really heartbroken, and it is a genuine thing that you should be feeling. So don't feel bad about your emotions. You could feel anger, you could feel hatred, you could feel disappointment, you could feel extreme grief, you could get into extreme depression, you could experience betrayal trauma, because it is a natural human tendency that if you have given, poured all out the best version of yourself for someone, it's a natural human compensatory balancing and alignment and harmony related paradigm, that if you have poured your all into something, or you have given your best to someone, it's natural that you expect that to happen from the other person as well. And it is not an abnormal thing to expect it from another soul, that when you've poured your best, given your best, they should also be giving their best, because we all have come on earth only to experience that as a part of love experience. That when we give our all, we deserve a partner who gives their all as well. When we have given our best, we also deserve a partner who gives their best. But while that is the basic necessary criteria that is needed in a relationship to make a relationship a top quality relationship, it's not necessary that you will get that in a partner whom you have fallen deeply in love with. Because, and why is it that such a thing happens? There's always a higher purpose related to it, and the because that I'm going to explain here is via my life path experiences of the life journey related to toxic relationships, imbalanced relationships, relationships that led to heartbreak that I experienced in my life. And from there, the because that I learned was, one was that those relationships that broke your heart, those relationships where you gave your 100% or your best or gave your all, and they gave bare minimum, or they gave just whatever they wanted to give, they were withholding of their emotions, or they were interested in other people rather than you, or they were always divided in their attention and they were not giving their all, or while you helped them with their challenging phase, they were not there for you during your challenging phase in a way that you needed. Like maybe you needed emotional support, but they're not there to give you the emotional support, and they ran away, like this girl ran away when this guy needed emotional support from his partner. So those partners exist, and it happens usually. This kind of running away can happen for women, especially those women who are going through single motherhood, those women who have been betrayed by men who have slept with them, and then once the women got pregnant, they have left the women after a year or two of the pregnancy. Those kind of women actually experience this kind of betrayal trauma even at a greater degree, because now the abandonment is not simply of the person itself, but the person along with a child gets abandoned by a partner. But people, while it is a heartbreaking experience, it is a painful experience. It can lead to a years of trauma related experience, years of grief related experience in our life. Usually when you heal after such negative experiences, and it took me almost, for many of these relationships, majority healing phases took me at least 5 years, 10 years to heal, and some minority healing also took even 20 years for me to heal from. But that healing that happens, if balanced healing has happened at that point of time, you will also realize the higher purpose of why that person left you, or the higher purpose of why God allowed some painful experience like that to occur in your life, because they are all related to usually our life path journey related, future life path journey related something. And while in the present moment of the painful breakup, of the disappointment, of the betrayal, of the lack of support, it's a extremely painful journey, and you might feel like you're drowning in your emotions. You might feel hatred towards the person. You might feel, why did I love this person so much? You might feel taken advantage of, and that's why the hatred or anger might stem in your soul. But understand this, that some relationships were simply meant to be our life lesson, our teachers, and they were meant to be life lessons and teachers of the thing that was most painful about that experience, so that when the opposite of that experience eventually arrives in your life, you will understand in contrast how much beautiful the opposite of that experience is. And so that you develop also empathy for those people who are also going through the same challenges as you are going through, or worse challenges than what you are going through. So these are some of the very typical reasons why someone will leave you, and they will have some very specific reason also, but this is the overarching reason of the betrayal or trauma you will experience with someone, the soul contract related overarching experience that you won't realize the day they leave you. It will take you a year or 2 or 10 years to figure out finally why they left you, the overarching purpose of it. But to heal from it, you have to understand that some painful journey we have um, been soul contracted to experience sometimes in life, and the degree of pain or depth of pain was actually partly based on how they broke off with you or how they disappointed you. And the greater the betrayal they did, the greater the way in which they uh, weren't there for you in your life when you needed them the most, um, the greater is the life lesson associated with it, possibly, or greater is the journey of forgiveness you have to go through with that person who was not able to keep up their soul contract. For example, I've spoken in many of my videos about my first boyfriend, the one that I recollect as my first boyfriend, because apparently or possibly I've had some memory loss also in my past, a kind of memory loss where the one who I am talking about as my first boyfriend may not be my first boyfriend. I could have had a boyfriend even before that. I just do not have the memory of that person. So, but the person who, when I went to US, the person I dated in US and I consider as my first boyfriend, about him I've mentioned in many of my videos that our relationship was a very sexual attraction based relationship. For me it was an emotional attraction based relationship, but for him it was more of the sexual attraction element than any emotional attachment, or he was not able to verbalize his emotional connectivity to me. So because of that reason, our relationship, because it became more sexual than emotional, more destabilizing as a result of the sexual mismatch we were having in the relationship. The mismatch was not because the attraction wasn't there from both ends. I was heavily attracted to him, he was also heavily attracted to me. But the problem was, while I was heavily attracted to him, I didn't want to have a sexual relationship before marriage, and he was heavily attracted to me. And because we live in a country like US where people can date each other when they are consenting adults, and people can sleep with each other if they are consenting adults, he wanted to focus on that. He wanted to have a real sexual exploration with women, and I could see only that he was at a phase of life where his whole mental mindset was that he wants to explore sexual relationships with women. And that's why only he had a very powerful sexual chakra as well. So because he had a powerful sexual chakra now, and he was also a very good looking guy, he was also intellectually a very smart guy. So when women are looking for a potential partner, women will look for only these kind of characteristics: someone who is intellectual. If they are intellectual, they will have an intellectual capacity to do well in their work, so that will attract some women to certain men. If you're good looking, obviously when anyone who is good looking, girl or a boy, they will always attract more people towards them because of their good looks. And then if you have a powerful sexual chakra, that also will magnetize many people towards you. But how you use your powerful chakras, whatever chakra element in your body is very highly activated, the potential of what you have and how you use it is what is the life lesson associated with it. And we were both meant to, destined to meet each other at that point of time in our life, because we both had to learn certain life lessons. And for me, while I was going through the painful relationship experience where I felt I kept pouring into the relationship a lot more emotionally, I also financially was always the one who was taking care of certain very simple financial needs, because we were both staying with roommates part of the time, both staying alone by ourselves part of the time. When we were dating, we were on and off dating many a times. Like we would date for a few months, then we would break up, then 1 2 years we will not, 1 year or 6 months we will not meet each other, and again date for a few months, and then it wasn't working out. That so a very on off dating, not dating, dating, not dating was happening, kind of like Ross and Rachel. And wherein he was kind of like the Rachel like personality and I was the Ross like personality in some ways. And because of which, and I was partly Rachel like personality, he was partly Ross like, he was also partly Ross like, partly Rachel like. in some aspects, not but in the aspects where we were similar is the fact that how Ross kept on wanting to get back with Rachel for many years. And Rachel was not interested in him, or whenever Ross wanted to get back together with her after their breakup, it just didn't pan out with them. Same thing kept happening with me, that I wanted to keep getting back to him. Because I was very strongly magnetized emotionally, as well as the sexual magnetism was already there. But for me, my focus was not on the sexual elements. I didn't know why my focus was not on sexual elements. Later on in life, I realized why my focus was not on sexual elements. But at that time, as a early 20s person, a mid 20s person, that is the time point when I dated this guy. In that age range of early to mid 20s, when I was dating him on and off, my personality was not ready to have a sexual exploration with a guy. But even though I didn't want to have that, he wanted to have that. So he was always, pushing the boundaries of the sexual boundaries that I will allow him to push. And while he was pushing those boundaries, at that time I was highly uncomfortable also. And many women, when you fall, this is a common problem that women go through in relationships. So when women are in such relationships where they deeply and emotionally are very much powerfully connected to someone, and then there is also a very heavy sexual attraction, at that time we allow that person to have a sexual connection with us. And we some women, even if they have been taught certain let's say they want to be a very highly Christian morals related person, or Indian culture morals related person, where they do not want to have premarital sex, or even if they but because you are in a set social circumstance or a country where it's the norm to engage in sex as a teen or engage in sex as a 20-year-old, at that time many people are not able to wait until they get married to have sex, right? And sometimes many women go through this. They get to be in a relationship where the power of the man's sexuality, power of the emotions they feel towards that man, causes them to now sleep with that person, simply because they're emotionally so when you are kissing someone or engaging in even minor sexual activities which are not sexual intercourse, but the first base, second base, third base stuff, when you're doing those explorations, the rush of oxytocin itself in a woman's body can cause them to want to sleep with someone that they are connecting like that. But if you do that, and if the man is only interested in sex with you, they will eventually abandon you. And this is actually true not just of a modern man, but now it is also equally true of a very attractive modern woman as well. Because those men and women who are actually who have got powerful sexual chakras, who are also very easily in the top 10 to 30 percentile of good looking people, they will always have many people attracted towards them. It's invariably going to happen that there would be at least 100 people at one point of time, or 10 people at one point of time, who may be heavily attracted towards them, who might want to sleep with them, who might want to date them. And because they are that top 10, 20, 30% good looking or very smart, or something exceptional about them attracts the opposite gender towards them, whatever is their exceptional quality that attracts the opposite gender, at that point of time, it can happen to a man also, it can happen to a woman also. But most of us, when we are younger, or when we are naive, or when we are less aware about this concept, what will end up happening is, when a good looking person ends up selecting someone who's maybe not as good looking, maybe not as smart, maybe not as in the top 30 percentile, but in the 50th percentile of good looks, or lower percentile of good looks, what then happens at that time is, if someone extremely good looking is attracted to someone not that good looking, or someone extremely popular is attracted to is dating someone who's not so popular, or someone good looking and intellectually having a very smart person is dating someone who's not possibly as smart and very average in their smartness. At those times, because there's an imbalance of power in the relationship, and if the person who's dating you and is the better looking spouse or more intellectual spouse or partner, or is the more attractive and popular partner, at those time points what will happen is that imbalance that has been now created in the relationship will cause that person to have very diverted attention because and a inflated ego, because they are always popular, right? So they start devaluing the partner who's not as good looking. They can, I'm not saying that they must or they do always devalue the partner, but majority of the people, if they are not in their balanced energy, will and if they are more in their egoic energy, the popularity from 10 other people means that they will give less attention to the girlfriend's energy. Like if I'm the girlfriend of a very attractive and a popular person, that attractive and a popular person will be having other people who are also showering love energy towards them. So because there are and silently showering it, because obviously if you are dating someone and other people around you know that you two are dating each other, some boundary might have been kept by the partner, but if the partner's boundaries aren't strong against the opposite gender, and if the partner is not ready to settle down at that point of time, they will not hold a strong boundary against people finding them attractive. So what they will do is they will if there are other 10 women interested in them, they will allow them to flirt with them, they will allow them to show their interest towards them, because it is a ego boost for that person that there are so many people interested in them. But because of this ego boost, what starts happening is they will not value their partner as much when the relationship is going through some emotional turmoil. They will not value the partner or consider that this partner is not so good looking, this partner is not as popular, so I can do better. That kind of mindset also starts happening to the more popular, more good looking, more smarter, whatever is something really more about them in some way. If they are not mature, if they are mature, they will start looking for what is it that this person has that I don't have and that I admire about my partner. Then the imbalance doesn't happen. But if one partner is better than the other in some element, and they actually continue holding the belief system that they are better than the other person without observing what is good about the other person, why did God send me this person as my current partner? If they've not done that exploration about their partner, they will think themselves to be better than the other person in some ways. So for my first boyfriend, that was the issue. He was actually, for both my boyfriends, that was the issue. The first boyfriend was intellectually smarter and good looking. The second boyfriend was charming and intellectually smarter, charming, popular and intellectually smarter. So the first one was a little less popular because he was a little less mixing and mingling type of personality. But even though he was not he was a less friendly personality. But even though he was a less friendly personality and doesn't like socializing much, that was the difference between the first and the second boyfriend. But the one who didn't like socializing, he still loved women a lot, so he wanted to date multiple women. That was his problem zone. That at that point of time in my 20s, he was still not ready to settle. I was ready to settle, but he was not ready to settle. He wanted to explore more people, and for him, every woman who was interested in him was just a sexual interest women. He wanted to explore the sexual side first before deciding on marriage or whatever else he wanted to do. He was just completely lured by the sexuality of his experience, and the reason why I came in his life is because of trying to check him about his sexuality. But he didn't understand the value of why I was given to him as a girlfriend for a few years, why I was present in his life as a on and off girlfriend for a few years. So if he had learned the lesson as to why, if a woman is there in your life and is trying to take you towards a little less sexual route with her, why that is an important factor in a relationship, if you have understood that, then you would have understood the purpose of having someone who's with such a diverse perspective there in your life. But he didn't understand that. That is his lesson that he could have understood, but he didn't understand. So um, that's that. So when two people meet each other in a relationship, there's always going to be a life lesson that is unfolding in your journey with that person. Now, if the best life lessons have been learned with them and they were only supposed to be a temporary partner, at that point of time, if both people were in a mature level of existence and both people were in a mature kind of love with each other or emotionally balanced kind of love with each other, but they have realized their life lesson that this is all the lesson I can learn from this person, or this is all that our soul contract, like if you're spiritually connected, you will know when your soul contract with someone has ended or is ending. So if you understand that at the spiritual level, or if you understand that this is all the number of years I was allocated by God to be with this person and they were allocated to be with me, you will easily let go of that person. It will not cause betrayal and heartbreak. They will easily let go of you. It will not cause betrayal and heartbreak. And you will not just easily let go of each other. It is still going to be painful because it's not very easy to let go of an emotional connection to someone or a deep love filled connection with someone, but you will be able to, it's easily, meaning it's more easy than a toxic relationships breakup or a betrayal filled relationships breakup. That way the contrast level of ease is that the emotional pain of it is not possibly similar. I hope this makes sense. So it was very heartbreaking for me because it was a betrayal filled relationship. I didn't have that kind of a breakup where a mature breakup was happening. I was very emotionally, I could be considered as a toxic girlfriend also to that person, because I was all the time, because he was repeatedly breaking my sexual boundaries. The response to the breakup of the breaking or pushing of the sexual boundaries kept causing me to feel continuously internally very uncomfortable at the soul and emotional level, where and at the physical level, that I kept feeling like I'm getting taken disadvantage of, because I don't want him to go beyond second base, but he kept wanting to go beyond second base. And then some days I would, because I was also attracted to him, and as I said, women do that, so I would allow him to go a little beyond second base. But while I was going beyond second base, I kept finding it like a violation of my principles, violation of what my soul journey was supposed to be with him. And at that time I didn't know it was a violation of the soul journey that was supposed to be unfold with him. But I just felt emotionally, I felt very off balance with him. So as a result, when you are emotionally off balance with a partner, when the partner is not giving you the safety that you require, because this is a boundary issue, I was giving him a boundary that I don't want to go beyond kissing and second base, but he wanted to keep going beyond that. He would promise me also that he wouldn't go beyond that, but he kept pushing that boundary. So eventually then what started happening was resentment will build up, and as soon as resentment is now building up, because he's continuously breaking his promise of not taking it into the sexual realm. I wanted it to be at the friendship area, where as a friend, let's just first explore each other's company. Let's explore what we like about each other. Let's explore why should we be in love with each other. Let's explore why we should be friends with each other. All these things, let's just explore that aspect first before, because after, and these things that I'm talking about, first it was like, first I was in absolute love with him, and because I was in absolute love with him, I thought he was also in absolute love with me. But this is the first mistake, that when you feel absolute love for someone, there's no guarantee that at that moment of time they are feeling absolute love for you. When you feel complete pure love for someone, it is not necessary that they are feeling that emotion for you. When you are feeling love, it is very much possible they are only feeling attraction for you. That can happen. It can happen with a girl, with a guy doing that to a girl, it can happen the opposite way also. So this guy in the video that I saw, maybe I'll post his link also, but in his video I feel the emotional investment was more from his end, and whatever I'm narrating about my relationship where the guy was not there for me, in his relationship the girl was not there for him. So, and he was more emotionally invested. So this emotional investment that we are doing towards a girlfriend or a boyfriend or a partner, at that time remember that we are doing the emotional investment because we feel a pure kind of soul love towards them, but they are not awakened to that soul love that we are feeling for them. For them, if they fall in the categories of someone exceptionally popular or beautiful or well liked or easily able to access other girlfriends and boyfriends, they will constantly be seeking approval from outside the relationship, other people, especially when they are at the young age level, immaturity level is high in them. They do not want to settle down, they're not ready to settle down with someone, they are not ready to be responsible towards caretaking of someone else, and they will repeatedly show you only in the relationship's trajectory how they can't show up for you. So when actually the girl did him a favor, if she broke off and expressly told him verbally, face to face, that she can't help him with his problems when he left her, because while that girl at least told him verbally, that's why I'm saying he did a favor, slight better favor, and a favor also because once a partner who can't take care of you when you need them to take care of you leaves you, understand that their leaving is for your greatest good, because then after they have left you, even though you are in a painful state at that time and you're grieving their leaving you, understand that their leaving means a door has been closed about a relationship that was not working out for her. She has realized it is not working out for you. You may not have realized it, but obviously if it is not working out for her, it also means it's not working out for you. And then once she has left you, now she has left the, while that door has closed with her, and which is a painful experience because you might feel blindsided, or you might feel destroyed because you had poured so much of love into it, and you might feel my love has gone to waste. But remember that that love didn't go to waste, and why it didn't go to waste, how it didn't go to waste, you will realize it many years later. But because the door has closed, now you can open the door towards a partnership with someone who will be able to take care of you when you are in trouble. That someone may not come in your life the year she left you, may not come in your life even 10 years after she has left you, but they will still come in your life. They will come in your life when you are ready to have the kind of love you deserve, and when someone else is ready to give you the love that you deserve, and when you have also done some life lessons related to the understanding that your love that you had poured into a girl who didn't love you back was not wasted. Because that typical thinking of a person who has poured a lot of love into someone else, feeling that my love has gone to waste, or if not, some people will feel that their love went to waste, but some people will feel that why despite so much love towards them it didn't work out. Some people might feel why despite me pouring in my best self it didn't work out. Some people might feel why despite being there for her at so many different times, she hasn't even been there for me even at the minorest time when, or the minimum time when I requested of her. All these are the things you will question, and all of these are the things I questioned in each of my relationships that didn't work out. I didn't ask all these questions at every time point when each of my relationship didn't work out, but these 5, 6, 10 questions that are going around in your mind, that why God, or what did I do wrong, why am I not capable of attracting good love, all these kind of questions will arise in your mind. And that is what actually that first relationship, or whichever number girlfriend that person was, that relationship will bring in you, and it is meant to bring in you, because the answer to that why God will provide to you, but you may not get it the day they left you. It will take you a while to understand that why. It will take you a while to understand why you had to go through that grief of the betrayal. You feel that despite my doing so much for her, why didn't she do the likewise thing, or why wasn't she able to love me the way I deserve to be loved? And you will feel, I felt like that when this boyfriend was kept keeping on, flirting with other women, or threatening me sometimes that if you don't sleep with me, I'll sleep with other women. And I told him that if you want to sleep with other women, you do that. I will just have you as a friend then, because I was extremely lonely. That's why I wanted to have at least a minimum friendship level with him. And second thing was, I also knew he was also very lonely, so and he's not also a very social, he was a much less sociable person than me. So I knew that for him also it would do him good if he stayed friends with me. So it was not like I was just taking advantage of the guy. In fact, all the times when I went and after breakup, I would only go and patch up, I would only go and meet him, I would only go and give him company in his home. Very rarely would he come to give me company in my home. At the initial few times when I had roommates, he would come to my home, but after I didn't have any roommates, he never came to my home. Very rarely came to my home to support me in any of my life's challenges. There were times when I broke my ankle. I had a micro fractured ankle. He didn't help me. I had some accidents. He did help me with the accident in helping me go and buy a new car. So that way he was just there very superficially as someone who was there besides me when I went to purchase a car, and he took me to the places where I wanted to go to buy a car. So when some friendship element ways, because he was a slightly selfless guy and a more helpful guy than the norm, he was ready to help me even if we have broken up as girlfriend and boyfriend. He was that good enough guy who was ready to help take me to a car dealer when I needed someone to just give me a ride to a car dealership. And he was ready to do that despite us having broken up after a few years. And then because he helped me, again we would get back together, and then after we got back together, again we would go into the same zone where he wanted a sexual thing and not a deeply emotional thing. And even if he had proposed to me, there were a time point in our relationship where he had said that let me settle down in whatever I'm doing, and after 1 year I might propose to you. So even if he had ever proposed to me in the future, the thing was that despite him wanting to propose, or at least saying half-heartedly that he will propose, because eventually I felt it was a half-hearted thing, that he didn't really mean it. It was just a way for him to stall the timeline of the proposal. That is how I interpreted it eventually. It could be that other things happened that I don't know about, but this is how it unfolded for me, that he promised that he would think about marrying me after 1 year, but that thinking about marrying me thing never went into real marriage proposal related things, or never went into any place where I felt that he was really truly in love with me. He never ever once in the relationship said he loved me. Only one time he said during Valentine's Day, I like you. Most of the other times he was very reluctant to say that he loves me. And one time he had also psychologically manipulated by giving me a card on Valentine's Day, another Valentine's Day, where in that card it said that it was a very friendship related card, and that was the first Valentine's Day, and just a few months after we were dating, and only barely 7-8 months since we had known each other. So at that time, getting a friendship related Valentine's card was a little disappointing, but it was not something I found I was like okay with it. But 1 month later, or because I was okay with it, he was also very testing guy. He was very suspicious of my accepting of what he said, the card he gave me, because I had given him a very I love you kind of a Valentine's Day card, but his card was not like that. So instead of he was very withholding emotions kind of a partner. So after 2 weeks or 1 month of the Valentine's Day having gone by, he wanted to psychologically now manipulate me about something or test me about something. So he showed me a card, and in that card it had all the things that a Valentine's Day card should actually tell to a partner. And he told me, and on that day, that I want to give this to a partner only when they deserve this card. So, meaning as if I'm not deserving of that card, I've not yet earned that kind of a Valentine's Day card, which shows a lovey dovey type of flowery language in the card. So, which was a very insulting thing, right? Like when you're dating someone, you're newly dating someone, if they start saying these kind of a thing, it's a subtle manipulation, and it is not just a subtle manipulation. These are the patterns, like slowly throughout the relationship, like this similar withholding patterns emerged in the relationship. First was this, second was next Valentine's Day was telling that I like you. Then there were many Valentine's Day which we never met only because we were broken up. During birthdays also I never got anything that a typical girlfriend should get. So I was essentially just like a side piece to him, or just because he knew I was emotionally too much invested in him, or something, he thought that he didn't value my presence in his life. And which is what also happens with certain people in certain relationships. When you're pouring a lot in your relationship and the other person is barely pouring anything or not pouring anything at all in the relationship, they are just not emotionally invested in the relationship like you. They are not that deeply interested in you, or even if they have a deep interest in you, they're not ready to explore that deep interest into something meaningful, simply because they have too many other alternative choices, or they are having some other priorities. Because with the first boyfriend, there his issue was he has alternative choices related to dating life. With the second boyfriend, who I met around nearly 8-10 years later after the first boyfriend, in that second boyfriend's relationship, the thing related to the, and 8-10 years after, like in the first boyfriend's case, I dated him in my early to mid 20s. Second boyfriend's case, I met him in my early 30s, dated him a few years later. And again, it was just a very early 30s related timeline when I dated him for a few months or a year or so. So knew him for a year or so, dated him for a year or so. So this so that way it was a 8-10 years difference. But the breaking time point between the first and the second, that gap was maybe a few years gap in between, because the first one I was dating on and off for a while. And then in the middle also, I met some guy which my family wanted me to meet. For family and my father's friends introduced me to some people, which is based on the arranged marriage paradigm. But again, it didn't work out. One was American citizen, and it didn't work out because he already actually had someone he wanted to marry. And he also kind of partly manipulated the situation in such a way, presented it only in such a way that he knew that I would say no to the marriage, which ended up happening. He wanted me to say no, but actually speaking, he was the one who was saying no. But to his family, he wanted to show that I'm saying no. And that is what happened, and I was fine with it because I was not that emotionally invested in that guy. There was another guy I was starting to be emotionally invested in him, but he was a very weird guy. And there also ego related problems came up, finance related now problems came up, because while with the first boyfriend, we were both earning, we were only graduate students in US, so we had only like 17,000 or 19,000 salary a year. So in that salary, we were just at the same salary range. So at that time, if the boyfriend is not putting any monetary efforts in the relationship, I didn't take it too badly initially, in the initial years of the relationship. But later on, I started resenting him because he would never, like, you want a man to be a little bit of a provider, right? Even if they are not being flowery with their language, even if they are not giving you like beautiful Valentine's Day cards, even if they are not saying I love you to you, but if at least they are providing to you, if they are, at least they are caretaking you, you might still see some semblance of a good relationship developing with them, but that was also not happening. So the only reason that relationship was continuing was just because I was feeling emotional connection to him, just because we were both lonely, and we occasionally just would go out for a movie dinner or a date, and a date which consisted of a $5 $2 movie date. That's it. That is the extent he spent on me, a $5 movie date. That's it. And while he would spend $5 on the movie, I was the one spending $15-20 on the dinner. Or while he was paying for the car and the movie, I was paying for the dinner, and when he came to my house for lunch or dinner, I was paying for that. But again, most of the time, nothing we shared, there was nothing that was showing that this is a good relationship, meaningful relationship, balanced relationship, a relationship where if marriage had happened, he would be a partner of equal kind at all. He was not doing equal, equitable things throughout the relationship, simply because he considered himself to be better, and he considered me to be not up to his standards. This is what I eventually understood from years of being in that bad imbalanced relationship. And I was very fat at that time. I was very insecure about my life. I was also depressed person. I was going through the challenge of I had family challenges where I couldn't speak about my family challenges to many people. So in my 20s, I had a lot of shame related to my upbringing. I had a lot of insecurity related to myself. So naturally, obviously, a person who has shame, who is feeling insecure, who is not feeling good about themselves, or who has had such a phase of depression, that the only good thing about this relationship was he used to make me feel alive. Like, before I met him, some days I used to question, do I even have a heart? So just being with him, I used to feel, okay, my heart starts beating rapidly because I'm so attracted to him, or I love him so much that way I used to feel that, okay, I do have a heart. So I was grateful. This is the gratitude I learned about that relationship. That I had asked universe the question, right, do I even have a heart? Because I felt very depressed in my family life. I knew no one in my family life actually cared about me. I couldn't develop that care also for anyone in my family, because they didn't love me or care about me. So that's why only the first boyfriend I got was the one who doesn't also care about me in very similar ways like my family. The only difference was that while my family didn't care about me, I was not feeling also some days whether I have a heart or heart chakra. This guy at least activated my heart chakra. So you see how important it was to have someone who will at least activate my heart chakra, to tell me that I do have a heart, I do have emotions, that I can emotionally feel connected to someone. So for me, that was the gratitude I felt about later on, or even while I was going through that relationship where nothing else was present except constant insult, constant abuse, or constant imbalance, when insult was not there but repeated imbalance was there in the relationship. And then the second person was like, again, a family, like the one who I met through the family was actually very reminiscent of my family. That's why only I was glad that he wanted to test the boundaries between, he wanted to meet a couple of times, even though it was an arranged marriage like setting. For him, just one meeting was not enough, and I'm so glad that one meeting was not enough, because the more in the first meeting, if he had said yes to the marriage, I would have said yes, thinking at that time I was I was low in confidence at that point of time also, even though I was in my late 20s. But by then I had worked on my figure, so I had felt good about the body, at least. Like earlier I used to feel really I set myself up for abuse with someone because I was fat and I was insecure and all these things were going on, right? So at least when I was not fat, I felt like, more attractive about myself in my late 20s, because I was working out in the gym for many years, so I didn't feel ugly anymore. I was still having the insecurity, but at least I was not ugly. So because I was not ugly, that gives you a little bit more confidence now, that instead of being in the 60th or 70th percentile of good looks, now I am maybe in 40th percentile of good looks, top 40th. So because I was not very thin or anything, but I was at least size 4, size 6 at that time when I met this guy. And that point of time, though, I was so glad he didn't say yes in the first meeting, because the subsequent meetings, and even in the first meeting only, there was some weird things that happened which I didn't realize was a weird thing. But eventually, over the year that I met him, not year but about 8-10 months, I met him, and I realized this was a very, very at that time also, he was a very, I don't want to even discuss him, because the kind of experiences I had with him was very isolationary experience, where I know it was a toxic experience. In hindsight, after 10 years of meeting him, I finally realized why it was a very toxic experience. But the time, 8-10 months that I met him, at that time I could only see the very typical red flags, which were related to the fact that he was, because I was at that point earning a little bit more than him, only $20,000-$30,000 more than him. At that time I was a pharmacist. By then I had become a pharmacist also. So two things increased my confidence. One was I started working as a pharmacist. Second was I had lost a lot of weight. So they both gave me the confidence to be a better version of myself than I was in my early 20s. So as a result, because I was very confident about myself and feeling good about myself, this boy, when I met this boy from my family connection, he was not feeling good about himself. All the reason was because I was slightly good looking than him. And second thing was, I had slightly more salary than him. Like, let's say he was getting maybe 60 or 70k salary, I was getting 100k salary. So that was a challenge for him, and he immediately started now looking for another job to ensure that he will have more than me as a salary, which is now a thing that I am so glad that at that time I never considered that a red flag, but now I consider this as a red flag about a guy, that if guys are competing with you about salaries and not focusing on the relationship metrics, it is a red flag. You shouldn't be focused on only salary. I know men are typically wanting to focus on being the breadwinner of the family and wanting to earn more than the girl of the family. That is a typical male thing that men want to do. But according to me, if both partners earn good enough salary, at that point of time salary shouldn't be the thing that should be playing the key role in your relationship. And anyways, salary shouldn't be playing a key role in your relationship. The way you are with each other should be the thing that should actually determine the relationship trajectory with each other. And the way he was with me was also very weird, that in many places, I again, in the second relationship also, I again ended up financing more every time we met. Either equal amounts were spent during lunches and dinners, or during stays in certain places, I ended up paying for those stays. So for me, that was a red flag, not the salary of the person, but the fact that they are not ready to pay equitably in a relationship. And also, for them, money does matter. That's why immediately, as soon as they heard that a girl is earning more than them, they wanted to earn more than the girl. So I'm very glad that that relationship didn't work out. And there were other very weird things that happened, like I have this intuitive ability to understand someone's psychological makeup, and his psychological makeup was not, it was a very creepy makeup. So I'm glad that didn't work. Then and he was always very smirking kind of a person. Like, for him, a girl having a emotional like, I one time, something happened which was very reminiscent of something that was a repeat fight with my first boyfriend, and I had broken off with the first boyfriend. By then only a year had passed at that time when I met this boy. So about a year or a slightly more than a year had passed. So during that 1 year I was not completely healed from that first relationship. So because of that, the some wound was still there in me. So I was very dramatic, and I dramatically said something in front of him and got a little bit angry in front of him, and he found that to be a very amusing thing. So for me, that is also a red flag. If a guy finds a woman's emotional responses amusing in not a very oh, it's all right kind of a way, or it, like there's a toxic way of finding amusement in someone's pain, and there is a healing way that you can find amusement in someone's pain. Meaning, if that amusement is about, I find it very endearing that you are doing it, then it is a healing way if someone finds your dramas very amusing. Okay. But if someone finds your dramas or emotional response to pain, because at that time I was in a painful response, it was not simply I'm creating drama for the sake of drama or something. I was literally being in a very responsive pain, trauma response based response and reaction had come up from me. So if someone finds your trauma as a very funny experience, at that time understand that guy also cannot be the guy for you. So I don't know about this guy's scenario, what kind of a girl he was with, but if you are with these kind of men or women, you are very emotional or you want to have an emotional connection, and when you are going through depression, it definitely means that you are seeking a more emotional connectivity, deeper emotional connectivity based relationship with someone. But many a times we fail into understanding that the person we are feeling deeply emotionally connected to may not be feeling that same level deep emotional connection to us. And when we fail to understand that they are not feeling that same depth of emotions as we are feeling, and even though they don't feel that same depth of emotion as we are feeling, they still want to date us simply because we might be a good guy or a good girl, or an attractive enough guy or a girl for them to use us as a placeholder until another attractive person comes around. So that's why also many people end up dating anyone who's interested in them, or end up dating someone really nice who's caretaking them in many aspects. They'll continue dating them until when? Until their need for that partner is gone. Like if their need for you, the girl who ditched him because the moment he was not able to be like whatever he was pouring into her, if there was a lot of imbalance in the relationship, eventually God will stop him from pouring into that relationship. That's why also he went. That is also another reason why you will go through depression. You'll go through depression because if you're pouring a lot into the relationship and the other person is not pouring equitably into the relationship, you will naturally go into deep depression, because universe wants you to stop pouring into someone who is not pouring back and giving back to you the same level love, or who might be just simply taking advantage of the fact that you are a good guy, spending a lot of time and money and resources and energy on them, while for her it's just a fun experience to have. Because who wouldn't want to be loved? Like, have you seen a puppy? Doesn't a puppy love everyone around? When you are walking around, he loves everyone. Like if it's a very well adjusted puppy, that well adjusted dog will love everyone, and everyone wants to have that kind of a love. Like everyone who finds a cute puppy and loves a puppy, you love it because it's so cute, you love it because it's a whatever is the reason. Every one of us has a core need to be loved, but while that core need to be loved, and everyone wants that love also, wants to get that love also from a partner, but some people are wanting that will take that love from anyone and everyone, because they are not in that phase of life where they want a relationship exclusivity, or they are the privileged kind where they have been so spoilt of love. Because if you are, as I said, in the top percentile of popular people, good looking people, extremely well sought out people, because maybe you come from a rich family, or whatever is the reason why you're in the top of the coveted partners range, those people who are in the top range, they will not they have a lot of choices and options, and because they have a lot of choices and options, many people love that attention also. Many people want to continue exploring that option until they are sure this is the right one. And while they are having fun exploring that option, while you want this guy likely wanted a relationship of equal level, equal maturity level, equal investment level, equal or equitable fairness level relationship, and deep connection level relationship. But she is not interested in that. She is interested in exploring all the options, and then out of the options she might figure out who is the best one for her. Or she is immature and she wants to, like, if they are in their 20s, he might be in late 20s and she might be in her early 20s. She might think, all my friends are not married yet, I don't want to marry. She's not ready for marriage. That could also happen to him. So whatever is the reason, she couldn't be there when he was depressed, because that emotional depth has not developed in her. So she can't be with him with that same level of emotional depth he had invested in her, simply because that heart chakra experience for her hasn't yet activated for her, and she doesn't want that level of deeper heart chakra bonding related experience manifest with him. And which is something I experienced with my the first guy was my first boyfriend. Second guy that I talked about, who was creeping me out, he was not a boyfriend, but I had met him a couple of times in the form of movie dates and visiting cities. And he was the arranged marriage connection related guy. And then I met my there was also few other men I dated like this, or met occasionally for via online websites. And then finally there was someone who I didn't classify as a date, but I was really deeply interested in that guy also. But he was also the same repeating pattern of the first partner, where he was only interested in some in the sexual angle, or getting whatever he can sexually out of the relationship, or just getting out of. He was also a little bit he had some insecurity, so his friends, he wanted to show his friends that he can date someone. So he was just using me as a trophy wife kind of a thing, like trophy girlfriend, you can say. But I didn't even know at that time, with that guy, I didn't even know that in the background he was already engaged with some other girl. And sometimes men also do this, and women also do this. If they are just playing you for a temporary high or temporary ego boost, and like using you like a trophy wife or trophy, because at that point of time I was very hot looking, like I had reduced and gone into a size 4 size, so I was looking really good. So for him it was a very fun thing to do, to show off that he also can have a girlfriend, because he had many American friends. So to show off to his American friends, he was dating me, like he was doing all things like a good date should do. But he was not actually interested in me emotionally, or in any long-term emotional relationship. And he first few times I met him, I thought I was just meeting him as a friend. But later on, when he was testing the water whether I'll sleep with him and all that, at that time I thought maybe he was interested in me. But then at that time he was such a some men are also this way manipulative. They will tell you that, he told me that and he was going to he was doing a master's in the university, in the place in the city where I was staying at. And in another city he had got a PhD degree program entry into a different program where he was going to leave after a few months. So at that point in time he was like, when I came to find out that he's going to leave in a few months, at that time he is telling me that do not I like you and everything, or I love you. He might have said I love you, I don't even remember. I don't think we said to each other that we love you, but when you are emotionally connected to someone, you are feeling emotional connectivity. This guy was emotionally slightly more connected than the other two men before him. So he was slightly more emotionally connected. But he said that even though I feel like this, understand that I will not keep in contact with you after I leave here. And at that time, I couldn't even understand, if you are so emotionally and deeply connected to each other, you're feeling a very emotional connectivity. Like, there was something about the music we were listening to, movies we were watching, that made me seem as if we had a love language developed between us, but a love language where both of us hadn't said that we love each other, but it was showing like the initial dating phase thing where you are interested in someone but you've not expressed anything about being in love with them. I was thinking that is the phase I'm going through with him. That is what I felt, because it was only a few months that we did this. But in those few months that we were doing this, I didn't realize in the background he had already fixed his marriage with someone else. And all he was doing was, I was just his last laugh before his marriage, kind of a thing. And that's why he kept telling me that don't I will not connect with you once I leave the state. I didn't believe it, but as soon as he left, that is when I understood that when I called him after he has left, he never picked up my phone. And before leaving, because he was feeling guilty of the fact that he was trying something sexual with me, again, I'm very against deeply sexual connections with anyone, so I didn't allow him to have sex with me. But we were kissing and doing second, third base thing. So once we might have done it, once or twice. So for him, I don't know, he felt guilty that he knows that he's not going to talk with me ever, right? So he also gave me like some pearl necklace and some coins to remember him. And because he was moving out of state, some furnitures that he didn't need, he gave those things to me as if to, placate me, that he knows he's going to break my heart, so he's giving me all these things. But do you really need all these things, material things, from anyone when they are breaking your heart? And if he had been truly engaged with someone, we could have had completely platonic, non-sexual, hanging out with a friend kind of a thing as well, where he could have said, I just want to show you off to my friends. I could have just gone with him to music festival like thing and all these kind of things. I had gone with him. We could have just done that. Just the sexual element would have been gone, and then I would not have been feeling betrayed. But I felt extremely betrayed, because again, this is the problem zone of men and women who are not interested in someone. They take you to all the relationship boundary breaches that with a partner you want to ideally explore, or you are thinking that this is going into a partnership zone because they're dating you in a way where he actually literally dated me in a way that a proper date should be like. Only problem was, he was not dating me, he was just, it was a calculated move of his. Like, he has found out what are good dating strategies, so he executed all those dating strategies, but he was not really interested in anything except something sexual, something to show off to his friends that he's dating someone, and that's it. So it was very heartbreaking. I spent months crying about him as well, but because another guy had already broken my heart, this time I didn't cry as much. And of course, he also had said he's never going to pick up my phone call. So all I could do was blame myself, that how stupid of me, I should have realized the red flags, when in fact I couldn't have realized any red flags about him. Because if someone does everything like how a date should go, or everything like how someone who's interested in a girl will show to a girl, and he was interested but only sexually or only egotistically, but not deeply enough as a life partner thing, because he had already decided who his life partner is going to be. Then the next boyfriend came, and in that next boyfriend's relationship, there was more friendship in the relationship. For a few years we were friends, we hung around as friends, and it was more a thing like I only proposed to him that to go into a relationship with him, and he was actually younger than me also, so it took me a while to even think, should I date someone younger? But somehow universe wanted me to date a younger person. But there's a lot of immaturity when you date a younger person. There's a lot of age related things that will crop up, and all of those things cropped up again. So anyways, when a guy is also now dating, all these experiences I'm telling, because when a guy is dating a girl, These are the things that will crop up when you are an older guy. When you're a 30-year-old dating a 20-year-old, they might not be ready for marriage. They might be more ready for more exciting things that the 20-year-old is looking for. They might be more into they're not going to be at a same emotional level or emotional maturity level or emotional investment level, which is what happened. I was a 30-year-old at that time. I was in my early 30s, like 30-year-old and 31, and he was in his 20s, so he was more interested in just hanging out with his friends, having fun with his friends, going on fishing and other fun activities with his friends than being interested in a relationship. So eventually that had to not work out, and in that thing I felt really heartbroken because of the fact that he was a very good guy. But even though he was a good guy, again, that was again another relationship. And this pattern, do you observe that continuously people are just now taking advantage of my money? Constantly in that relationship also, I was earning more than him, or so I wasn't spending more though. Initially I wasn't spending more, but later on it was more like a equitable spending between us. And he was a very spendthrift guy, so initially I was spending equally or equitably, but then I started seeing that he is always spending on his friends. So then I started stopped spending equally on dates, or like when we are going for breakfast or lunches, because I was like, if he is spending on his friends, why shouldn't he spend on a breakfast date with me or a lunch date with me? That is what happened. But it is not that he was still spending more. I was still spending more because I gave him my car to use, a car he would never have access to for 1-2 years if he didn't have me as his girlfriend. So for 1 year or 6-7 months he had access to my car. That gave him an advantage that he wouldn't have had otherwise. So like that, he had also some advantages when he was there with me. I didn't feel used, taken advantage of, but I realized later on that I am the kind of girl who equitably spends on many relationships. I have equitably spent more in many relationships, but despite that, the men have not only not spent any money, but for a woman like me, I was actually looking for emotional connection, deeper connection, meaningful connection, and a connection that will be not about sex but beyond sex. So but those kind of connections didn't materialize with any of them, and as a result it didn't work out. But I understood the value that when you pour out love into someone, it doesn't mean that the love has gone to waste. All it has happened is it went to a person who didn't deserve it or who was not ready to accept it. That's all that has happened. And the how it didn't go to waste, while I have understood it, for me to explain it to will need another video. But understand, when you have poured a lot into a relationship, you are also now getting expert at becoming a better and better quality lover, because in each of my relationships I did pour and invest something slightly different, slightly more slightly more level depth was slowly getting created in the connectivities I was forming with these people. While the attempt to the connectivity, meaning I was like a, how a potter, when you are learning pottery, you will see, when you're putting the clay on the pottery wheel and trying to mold it, when you're really bad at it, when you're new at it, you will distort it more, right? And the more you keep doing it, like the first pottery piece you make might be a very flat ashtray like thing with the distortions. The next one you make might be a little bit bigger thing, like a cart or a teapot or something, and it will still have distortions. The next one might be like a small flower vase with some distortions. The next one could be like a big vase or a big utensil, and slowly now the distortions are gone, it is forming into a better shape. And then the next one and the next one, like that, you might need like 8, 10, 20, 30 different distorted clay shapes will be formed, smaller shapes will be formed, smaller level bonds will be formed, bigger shapes might be there with distortions or structural deformities and things like that. But eventually, after you've made enough of these shapes of clay, the final pieces, that how you envision and how it should look, will emerge after 10-20 practices. So my modern relationships with any of these men were like that. And every time I was pouring the love, it was like me being a potter who's molding a clay. I was trying to shape a good, beautiful vase with them. They were, but the beautiful vase was not emerging, because in order for the clay also to now form the beautiful shape that I want, why will the distortions happen initially? First thing, it will happen because I don't know how to shape the clay. Then it will happen, I don't know how to navigate the wheel. Then it will happen that I don't know how to create larger pieces. So all of these reasons will, or even if I know how to create larger pieces, I don't know how to stably create it. So these are all these different reasons why it will not be forming into good shape. But finally, but there's also another element, it is related to the clay itself. So because if the relationship I'm trying to build with someone is like the clay material of their personality, if that person also has to be malleable to my personality and touch, right? Because when you pour into a relationship, you're pouring your heart out, you're pouring your emotions out, you're pouring your personality also into the shape you're making. So whatever is your personality, that will also determine sometimes after you become an expert potter. If two expert potters are compared, one potter's shapes will be very different from another potter's, because they are both pouring their personal elements also into that shaping of the sculpture or pot or whatever they are making, right? So if the vase I'm making, the material of the clay also determines how beautifully it will shape up. The softness of the clay will determine how beautifully it might shape up. The color of the clay, all of these things will determine the clay's element. So if that relationship is like that, that guy who were not the right kind of clay, who were not the right kind of clay I can work with, who are not the right kind of clay who are ready to be molded into a good relationship, who are not the right kind to have a balancing harmony with me. Because when you finally the potter who has completely harmonized with the wheel and the clay ends up making the most beautiful shapes, right? So that harmony and alignment in a relationship is like that. And if you are with people who are not harmonizing with you in the right way, in a balanced way, who are ready to mold and shape themselves according to the needs of the relationship, both people have to be doing it. So when both people are doing it equally and molding each other, shaping each other equally, pouring into each other equally, it ends up being a beautiful relationship. And technically speaking, while I gave this image of this pottery, is a woman supposed to shape a man into someone better? Kind of yes and kind of no. What is actually meant to happen is in what is this movie? I forgot the Patrick Swayze movie name, but in that there is a scene with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore where they're both doing pottery together. Remember? So technically you are both supposed to be potters who are shaping doing it together. So I was learning pottery with bad partners where no partner was ready to do the pottery with me. So that's why the shape is now really distorted. But in an ideal relationship, it's actually I'm also working on the pottery, you are also working on the pottery, both of us are molding the love that we have between us is a clay shape that we want to build. So it could be a clay vase, it could be a clay pot, it could be a clay sculptural design or something, some abstract design. Whatever it is we want to build together, we both have to first have the same image. Like if two people are doing pottery together, we both have to have the same image of what we want to build together. So if I want to build a glass and you want to build a pot, will we have a match? No. So that's why the first relationship failed. Even the second relationship, I want to build a ordinary piece, but you want to build an extraordinary piece. Will we have a match? No, we will not have a match. If in another thing, I want to build a long-term piece while you want to build a short-term piece, will it work out? No. And the fourth guy who was the second boyfriend, so in that person's case, again it is like He wants to build many small pieces so that he can spend his time with many friends, many activities, many things, whereas I want to build one big piece so that that piece can be enjoyed by simply us and no one else. So then can you have a good relationship? No. So that's why relationships are like that you have to have the same image that you both want to build together with each other. And when it is, if it's the pottery you are doing together, you have to both have the same goal, same destination, same journey, and both have to also know, if I'm building a big vase, both of us have to know how to build a big vase separately by ourselves. Once we have learned to navigate and build that big vase separately by ourselves, then together jointly are we able to build it. If we are able to build it, we will have a great life partnership with each other. And if you are not able to build it, which is what happened with my marriage, I also got married to one guy where we weren't able to navigate. Only we both wanted marriage, we both wanted a long-term relationship. So in that long-term relationship, we are both wanting to maybe build a large flower vase. So now that large flower vase that we want to build, but he wants to build it in the shape of a box, I want to build it in the shape of a tower, or I want to, whatever it is, we want to build a very different shape. So even though the length was right, or the vase element was right, but everything else about it was very different for each other. So that's why it broke off. It didn't end up making into any shape at all. So this is how relationships are supposed to be. And when we are going through the heartbreak of anything that didn't work out, at those time points it is heartbreaking. You will feel like this guy, there are other women also who feel the same way as me. You will keep crying about why the relationship broke down, what was wrong that you did that it caused it to break down. All these things will happen. Or you will feel unworthy about yourself. You might think, I'm not good looking, that's why this happened. I'm not smart enough, that's why this happened. I'm stupid to have fallen for these people's manipulations, that's why it happened. Or I am not as popular, that's why it's happening. Whatever it is, your insecurity will all show up in these time points when, or for this guy, if he was feeling depressed, he might think that it's my depression that is the problem. But I will tell him it's not his depression that is the problem. The problem is, for your depression, there is a girl out there who might love to take care of you when you're going through your depression. That is what you need to understand. But that girl can't enter your life if the girl who doesn't know how to take care of your depression stays in your life. So when that girl who stayed in your life, who doesn't know how to take care of your depression, left you, that's why I said she did you a favor. Same way with a girl also. If there was a girl, and with me, two people, the first boyfriend and the second boyfriend, they were also cheating in the time when we were broken off with other people, because they were not serious about the relationship with me. So when they started cheating, universe sent them a cheating girlfriend in the midst, because of the fact that while they both might have had said verbally that they want to marry me, realistically whether they were ready for the marriage was shown up by the cheating that happened. Because when a cheating person was introduced in when a more attractive or a slightly more differently attractive person came in their life and was ready to give them what they wanted, one wanted sex, one wanted some other things, whatever they and sex, so whatever they wanted in that relationship they got, and one wanted sex plus they also wanted some other things. So whatever they wanted in that relationship with those girls, they got those things with that girl who they cheated with. Only problem was, if they were cheating, I would also have been okay if they had just told me that, because it was a breakup point when they were dating someone else. It became cheating when I got back to them, and at that time they didn't have the courage to tell me that while we were broken off, I was seeing someone else and I'm continuing to see them. If they had told me that, then it wouldn't have been cheating. Then all it would have been meant was, you have gone back, you are dating someone else, tell me that honestly, so that I can leave the relationship respectfully, right? Why should I keep coming back to you if you are already interested in someone else? I do have that much self-respect. So these guys actually taught me about self-respect. They understand that, value yourself more, to understand that when you are pouring more into the relationship, giving more into the relationship, wanting to get back to a relationship where the other person doesn't want to get back with you, it means have that self-respect to understand that that is not the right place for you to be. And if they only shut the door, they have done you the favor so that the person who is right for you can enter your life. So I hope this made sense. And because this is a very important life lesson about self respect, life lesson about working through our insecurities, life lesson about working through whatever it is that we feel about ourselves when someone betrays us, someone leaves us, someone cheats on us, someone leaves a relationship of long standing or a short relationship, or someone is manipulating us with lies or half truths, but in the background they have no intention to be with us in the long term, or someone is using us for our resources, for our energy, for our money, or whatever they are using us. At those time points, understand that they were just there as a temporary life experience. It doesn't, they were there to show you your own worth. You will understand from the way you loved them, from the way after the relationship has broken, how you thought about them, from the intentions you had in your heart, from the way in which you are capable of loving. You will understand your own value and worth eventually, even though they didn't understand your value and worth in their life. That realization will come to you. That's why also you need the grief. The grief is there for you to self reflect, for you to connect to God, for you to understand that, yeah, like I'm not saying that we are perfect human beings. So in each of the relationship breakups, I also had some part in the breakups, but certain relationship breakups were not my part. The guy who is lying to me, who's already engaged to someone else, it's not my problem that if you are engaged you have to tell me you are engaged so that I don't date you. I can very well go on a movie date with you, or a spend some 1 hour 2 hour eating dinner with you. Only difference, if you had told me that you are dating someone else's, no kissing or little sexual connection would have happened. But why do you need that for 6 months when you already know you're going to marry someone else? Do you need that from another person for 6 months? You do not really need that from another person. So you have cheated on your wife or fiance when you did this with for her, which is a very betrayal thing that she has done to the other woman. And for me, even if you're telling me I'm not going to call you, you betrayed another human being as well. Because who will believe if someone is hugging you, kissing you, taking you on dates, that they are not interested in you long term, or they're not even interested in seeing whether this can go somewhere long term? Even if they say that I'm never going to call you, are you going to believe it if you are emotionally invested in that person? Which is what happens. That is a kind of psychological manipulation and psychological abuse, because they're giving you mixed signals. They're giving you one way, they are showing all the relationship patterns that a real ideal relationship at the beginning of a dating stage should have. But on the other hand, they are also telling you I'm never going to call you back, or after a few months I will not pick up your phone. You will not believe it, because you're so and they have this emotional depth to them when they are speaking with you, talking to you, going out on fun dates with you. So at those time points, you understand then that these people were never that karma that they created with this bad experience of psychological manipulation is a karma they will eventually, or they, that in that particular one, my culpability in that relationship was the least. In other places where culpability of the factors that cause something to fracture and break was the least. In the other parts, in the part where the guy is smirking also at me, again, universe only caused me to be angry at him in one point, or have this it was not, I was not angry at him, but it was like a angry response that came out of the belated trauma response I had to the first boyfriend taking advantage of me, and this guy also being very similar to that guy. So because of which, or similar yet different to that guy, so because of which a belated trauma came out of me, a trauma response came out, which came out in the form of a angry outburst. I was not angry at him, but it was a emotional outburst that happened, which, if you are a good, sane, stable woman, you should have good emotional depth, you should have good emotional responses. And a trauma response doesn't make you a person unworthy of another person. It's just that a person who can handle your trauma response will be the right partner for you, rather than a person who finds it amusing if a woman is dramatic, finds it amusing if a woman occasionally has a outburst, or who finds it disgusting when a woman is having a outburst. Those people are obviously not going to be your right partnership person. Doesn't mean that I don't need to heal from my past trauma. I do need to heal from my past trauma, but it also means that if I have healed also, sometimes your trauma responses of something you've healed from 10 years back, 20 years back, can also someday come. Like my mother passed away 25 years back, and even though she passed away 25 years back, there is still sometimes some trauma related to my mother's passing that comes up for me very rarely. Like in the first 5 years of her passing, I was grieving her the most. But even then, in the next 20 years of my life also, there have been occasions where in some rare times I have missed my mother, I have thought about my mother, I have thought about the certain things that gives me a trauma response about her death. So like that, even if you've broken up from a boyfriend 20 years back, 10 years back, you might still have some trauma response from it, a latent trauma response that can show up in later years. But if you marry someone who is zero capacity to understand trauma responses, who doesn't want to accept you for your flaws, who may not be ready to accept your flaws, or who may not have the emotional capacity to handle someone's trauma response, they're not going to be the right partners for you, how much ever. And God made you only a person of a particular personality type, for you to realize what are the places where you can have some semblance of balance related to your trauma, and what are the places you have to allow your trauma response to show up as well. Because this is what I learned from every time I was betrayed by someone and feeling a trauma response and going through an extreme trauma response related phase. The parts that I should accept about myself, that there are some trauma responses I have no control over. Like people think that trauma response is something you have a control of, but the reality is certain trauma responses you can never have control. You can anytime have a bad response to something that is triggering for you. If you were meant to have that trauma response, you will have that trauma response. It's just that if you have done, like, and I have done a lot of things like meditation, self-care, self-healing, many things to get out of the trauma response phase, to get out of the grief of the traumas, to get out of the betrayal of the traumas, to get out of the depression caused by some traumas, to get out of the whatever else I went through as a result of neglect or abandonment and other things that I went through during all these relationships that I have mentioned, or the deaths of my family. All of these things cause you to go through some very deeply painful life experiences. So when those experiences are going on, if you allow yourself to be your natural self, be a version of yourself which is not always a soft, gentle self, but can be a very harsh, dark version of yourself. If you accept your own darkness, then only will you be able to attract a partner who's ready to accept you with your darkness. Otherwise, you will end up being with false partners who will only get charmed by you from seeing your softer side or seeing your easier side, which is what was my problem with my second boyfriend. He likes my softer side and easier and fun-loving side, but he's incapable of handling the traumatized side, or side that needs caretaking. He just doesn't have the capacity to caretake me at the level at which I needed to be caretaken in that relationship, and that's why also it didn't work out. So that thing, you can't go to a partner who understands your wounds and accepts you for your wounds because not all of your wounds are supposed to go away in this lifetime. There's a long lifetime you've been given by God, because in that long lifetime some of your traumas will also determine your future life path. So even if you are, so my grief related to my mother's death, there are many reasons for me to have grief related to her death, some of which is related to my mother specifically, but some of it is related to my life path and life purpose as well. So that's why 25 years later, when I'm reminiscing about my mother's death, those are related to some of the life path that I have to traverse related to the experience I had 25 years back. So that trauma that is triggering me to talk about my mother is necessary for me to talk about her for my future life path to unfold for me. Do you understand? So every single time someone has done something where you have felt really upset and betrayed or depressed, or gone through some mental health or social health or emotional health challenge or psychological manipulation or extreme hurt, whatever you have gone through, understand, 10 years later you will understand why you went through what you went through. And 10 years later your eyes will open up about, oh, this is the reason why I experienced that relationship with her. Maybe because maybe when you are now married and settled with a good partner, and you have a son who is also equally emotional like you, and he goes dating now 30 years later someone else, at the time when he's dating someone, you can recognize the red flag of a girl who is not emotionally invested by then, because in 30 years time you would have reflected your trauma every time you felt traumatized by that first girlfriend's experience, or whatever, let's assume this was his first girlfriend. So the first girlfriend's experience, every time you reminisce about her and get traumatized about her, you will reflect now slowly over time. If you're not like overly obsessed about that relationship and you are in a balanced state about that relationship, you will still have some periods of reflection about her 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, and in those reflections you would have gathered the insights about, if you are aligned with your life path, you would have gathered insights about where she had used you, or whether she had used you, whether there were red flags that you had missed about the relationship, whether you were pouring too much into someone who you shouldn't have been pouring into. And now that you have a son or a daughter who's dating the opposite gender, at a time that son or a daughter who's dating someone else, you can identify those red flags in that opposite gender person your family is dating. Or even if you don't have any children, let's say 10 years down the line, you have a younger sister who's dating a man who's showing similar symptoms as the girl you are dating. Now you know that how to help your sister, now you know how to navigate things for your sister. So maybe that could be a reason as well. So everyone will have a very person specific, individual life specific, soul purpose specific, long term future of your life specific reason why you have gone through whatever painful thing you have gone through in your life. So but how do you heal from what you're going through right now at the moment of time when you're feeling the depression, feeling the pain? Allow yourself to go through that depression, allow yourself to go through the pain, allow yourself to feel all the emotions that you're feeling through, allow yourself a few months, few years to grieve through whatever you're grieving, to be angry about whatever you're angry about. But slowly start releasing them, start forgiving them, start forgiving yourself, start understanding there is a life purpose behind why it unfolded for you, a life purpose that you have to have the patience to understand in your future. Just wait for the revelation to come to you. It will come to you, but when it will come will depend on when it is supposed to come. I have consistently had different revelations related to each of my relationship problem zones, some related to my personality problems, where I understand there are certain things I'm not a perfect person, so I have to work on certain elements that I need to work on. But even if I'm not a perfect person, even if I have to work on certain things which I did wrong, I also have to recognize what kind of personality types or what kind of behavioral patterns in a partner is not balancing and aligning and harmonious and love supportive for me and for long-term health of a relationship that I want to build with someone. So if those life lessons will slowly emerge for you, if you reflect, if you write about it, if you think about it deeply, if you meditate or connect to God about it when you are not able to do it, or find a life coach or a therapist who can help you in doing this journaling activity, doing this analysis activity, doing this deep emotional cleansing and healing activity with you. So I hope this made sense. Anyone has questions, comments, wants to share something about their life journey, please connect with me. Thank you very much. Have a great day.